Welcome back. And let's just sort out this echo. I think, Ziad, we're all good now. And staying with courageous, brave females. So this Women's Month, I wanted to showcase not just women who've made it in corporate or in their careers as well, but women who took courage at a great cost to their own jobs, to their families, in order to reveal truths and to end corrupt practices. And we are talking now about whistleblowers. So let's just go back and understand who or what is a whistleblower. A whistleblower is a person who could be an employee of a company or a government agency disclosing information to the public or some higher authority about any wrongdoings, which could be in the form of fraud or corruption, etc. When a whistleblower comes forward and provides key information about wrongdoings, they can recover a great deal of money on behalf of the government. They can stop wrongful practices, and they can improve many lives. This is one of the main reasons why whistleblowers also suffer bad reputations, is because they break down the corrupt, and the corrupt don't ever want to be found out or called out. And the Zondo Commission has made me reflect upon, and I've had a newfound respect for whistleblowers in terms of what they had to give up just to come to the Zondo Commission, and the lives, their journey, and earning comfortably, living comfortable lives. Some of them have lost revenue, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, material possessions, and there was threats on their lives as well. I heard Kate at a conference in Gibbs on Friday, which I attended. Kate Hoffmeyer said the time she teared up during the Zondo Commission wasn't because she broke down and she had a day of breakdown. No, it was there was somebody giving testament in camera, and when she had read what he went through to get to the space here, in terms of giving testament in their lives being disruptive, and what he had to lose, this just moved her to say how brave and courageous this person was for the greater good of South Africa. So yes, today I'd like to acknowledge whistleblowers and give them a platform. And I am joined, and I'm so pleased to be in company of such courageous women here. So joining me now is a member of Active Citizens Movement, and I've got Advocate Adila Osman-Chowan, in Group Treasurer of South African Airways, as well as whistleblower Cynthia Stimple, who also was a former employee of state-owned corporates. She was a Group Treasurer of South African Airways until she blew the whistle on an unlawful 256 million rand contract in 2016 and lost her job. Unable to find employment elsewhere, she was giving yoga classes to make ends meet until COVID put an end to that mega revenue stream. So yes, also former head of legal and compliances in Daniels was also a whistleblower who revealed the extent of the Gupta's involvement in the parastatal to Parliament in 2017, and she literally ran out of money in December last year. So this is just to put into perspective and frame the difficulty and the cost to your lives and livelihoods that whistleblowers have to endure in order to reveal the truth. So let me just check with both Nazreen and them. I have Adila and both Cynthia joining me. Assalamu alaikum, Adila, and welcome to Salam Media. Adila? And let me see if I've got Cynthia. Peace and blessings to you, Cynthia, and welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you so much, Mariam here. Thank you for having me on your show of Salam Media.
So first, on the onset, I want to acknowledge you and thank you. And it's brave, courageous individuals such as yourself that actually allow our country to prosper, to grow, so that we can, it's a South Africa for all to live positively and also honestly. So I'd like to acknowledge you in that regard, that I know it was a great cost that came to you, both for your life and livelihood. And thank you for joining me on Salam Media.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Yeah.
So tell me about your journey. When did you actually uncover that there was something irregular regarding a contract? And initially, did you grapple with speaking out, or just remain silent and keep your job and keep your current status in this capacity? So tell me, what was your initial feelings, and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Mariam. The initial stage was when there was an irregular board resolution, and that happened in December 2015 already. And the journey of whistleblowing, and I'm sure the others can attest to it, it's never just an overnight decision. It's a decision that takes a while for you to get to it. So that first irregular board resolution, I was requested to ratify it. So I refused there and then, because I felt it was incorrect procedure. It was against our policies, and I refused to do it. Right. The second time, the board tried to change it by bringing in another client that didn't go through the process, and even there again, I challenged it. The third time was when they made outside the process in my area, got a transaction advisor, and then tried to change the scope. And again, they wanted my signature, and I refused. So internally in my organization, I was already standing up, speaking out, and refusing to do it because it was against our processes, our policies, and the way we should be doing business. And then when they still went ahead and changed the scope was when I took it to National Treasury. And when National Treasury didn't do anything, I then took it further to outside mechanisms, which was outer at the time. And they then made a public, put it out in the public space to try and stop the deal. And we managed to stop the transaction. So my experience as a whistleblower, though, is a hard, long road, which I'm sure other whistleblowers would attest to once you speak to them, like Adila and Suzanne Daniels, Devasham and others. It is a long, difficult road.
So let me bring Adila. I'm told we connected with Adila. Adila, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum salam. I can hear you.
Oh, and welcome. So Adila is a member of Active Citizen Movement, Advocate Adila Osman-Chowan. So Adila, please, let's just chat a little bit about Active Citizen Movement, because this is actually a much needed organization to provide support to people who come out in whistleblowers. So tell us about the organization Active Citizen Movement.
Okay, Active Citizen Movement's vision is to prevent fraud and corruption, hold people accountable, and currently we're focusing on lending support to the whistleblowers. The Active Citizen Movement has been instrumental in drafting a petition and a submission and hosting a demonstration outside the Zondo Commission to bring light to the plight of the whistleblowers.
Okay, and so at least there's support here, and I've got joining me Cynthia on the line, and she's spoken. So Cynthia, when you were relating your experience, you know what I found astounding was you took this information to Treasury, and for me that's the point where things should have happened and things stop, but yet Treasury, I mean, that did not happen in essence. What was the reason for that?
Thank you, Mariam, for the question. I actually wouldn't know because I'm not, I was not privy to the information. My personal sense, having testified at Zondo and having been given evidence at the time via the Zondo Commission evidence leaders and investigators, there was a letter already written in May when I first took it to National Treasury. National Treasury actually wrote a letter to the chairperson, Dudu Mayeni, to stop the further consolidation of the funds and to rather roll over debt. And the board still did not adhere to that. So I think National Treasury did do something, but obviously not directly where I was concerned, but to the top tier, which was the chairperson of SAA and their board, and still nothing happened.
And Adila, coming back to you, Active Citizen Movement has recently engaged or wrote a letter to President Cyril Ramaphosa. What does that letter state, and can you explain more regarding this engagement of this letter to our president?
Well, the intention of the document that was sent to the president is intended to seek better protection for whistleblowers, specifically requesting a change in legislation with reference to the Protective Disclosure Act. There are certain shortcomings within the Protective Disclosure Act that leave the whistleblower very vulnerable. An example would be like funding mechanisms. There's no funding mechanism available to the whistleblowers, and employers have deep pockets, and the perpetrators, they abuse their positions and dismiss the whistleblowers, and the whistleblowers are then left outside to try and litigate against their former employers. Another example of the shortcoming of the protected disclosure is that there is no criminal sanction against the company or even the perpetrator, the senior managers within an organization. Further, in my opinion, it would also require an independent body, like an independent ombudsman, to oversee the complaints of the whistleblowers. This would assist in a more independent and fair process that is followed in establishing the merits of the whistleblower's case, as opposed to the employer dealing with the complaint internally and being basically the judge, jury, and executioner in the process.
Yes, so definitely need reform in terms of whistleblowing, in terms of protecting whistleblowers, especially once it is found that evidence is credible, facts match up, and especially when, as in Cynthia's case, the contract was stopped, and that's holds true for many other whistleblowers as well. So in fact, better recognition. So that's why I to have individuals like that in companies are an asset, but yet many whistleblowers, once it's known that they are whistleblowers, companies then shy away from such individuals. Why is that? What's that reason? Because if I know that there's somebody who did that to a company or corporate I'm running, I definitely want to hire somebody of that moral fiber and caliber. So why do companies or government departments then elect to then make this person persona non grata, in your experience working with members, Adila?
In my opinion, it's got to do with the fact that when a whistleblower brings attention to fraud, corruption, crime, or racial discrimination, and using my own case in point, when I exposed racial discrimination, it was almost unheard of that someone could complain that Mr. Lamberti was capable of racial discrimination. And it gives a full reflection of the organization. It's perceived as bringing the organization into disrepute. There's implications as the shareholders then start questioning what is going on in the organization. So to avoid a situation of negative publicity and bring the organization into disrepute, it is perceived as easier to just basically get rid of the trouble causer, alleged trouble causer, the whistleblower, as opposed to dealing with the merits of the complaint.
So, Cynthia, coming back to you, can you just expand a little and describe the hostility that was then meted out to you once it was public knowledge that you were indeed the whistleblower, and you then questioned this contract?
Thanks, Mariam. So the first step was that I was suspended without given the opportunity to defend myself or speak up or give my reasons. I was called into the office, received a letter straight away that I'm suspended until further investigation. And so you're suspended. The next thing is the company sends out an internal newsletter stating to everybody I committed misconduct and that no one should be talking to me. So immediately you become ostracized. You're this pariah. No one of your staff or your colleagues speak to you. Even though I send messages to find out, everybody ignores you. Fortunately for me, I had two people that kept in constant contact with me, but my own staff who reported to me, I had 10 staff members, not a single member of my staff members contacted me, and even up to today have they ever asked me if I was okay. So yeah, the third thing that happens is you have to defend yourself from a legal perspective, and if you don't have the lawyer's fees, you try and defend yourself and you could lose. So one of my colleagues who worked with me at SA was also suspended. He couldn't afford to get legal fees and he went to defend himself and he was dismissed in his first meeting. So that's how bad it can become. I was again fortunate in that Outer assisted my legal fees. Then besides that, because you feel that you've been ostracized, if you don't have your family support and you don't have the financial means, it also impacts you mentally. So all whistleblowers go through some sort of repercussions from a health perspective. And it could be that you end up with a depression or exacerbated into psychological or psychiatric further development. Alternatively, you lose your spouse. Some of our whistleblowers have lost their marriages have broken up, or they seem to be unfit parents, and then they lose their children or the capability to manage their children. And then exacerbated with that is not finding a job. So there's all these various broad aspects which affects the whistleblower. So it's not a one isolated event. And I think we come out stronger the sooner we find a job, the sooner we are recognized, the sooner we can identify what the problem is and work on it. And that's why to help whistleblowers and support them, we're going to need this broad mechanism which Adila spoke about: support from a financial perspective, support from an ombudsman or an office. So we need all that to help a whistleblower to survive.
You know, when you're speaking here, I just feel for you. I'm overcome with emotion to think that what whistleblowers have to endure. You've opened so many dimensions to this debate as well, and all the while I'm sitting and thinking that you have unshakable character, in your moral fiber that runs through your veins is unbelievable. And I sit here in awe and newfound respect for yourself, Cynthia, and all whistleblowers around here, because at such a personal cost, your motivation is your morality. Your motivation is your morality, and also your love and your patriotism for our country. That you know what, you endure so much for us, and I'd like to acknowledge you for all that you have been through, and Adila as well as all the whistleblowers. I salute you, because really I'm thinking to myself as I'm sitting here, would I be so courageous, or would I throw in the towel? Because really it's an emotional cost, a legal cost. It's systematic ostracization from the corporates, from your community. Maybe, as you said, your spouses might not be able to endure this journey with you, or your children might not be able to endure this journey from you. And I'm coming out now and being seen with this newfound respect. And you are really a champion of South Africa. This only happens after the effect 5 years later. But in those intervening years, really it's a struggle, it's a lonely journey. And I'm so pleased we now have movements like this that are engaging with government in terms of reform in the area of whistleblowing and better protection. Adila, am I right in terms of my framing and understanding the journey of a whistleblower?
You are 100% correct. The journey of a whistleblower is one of those paths that I would never want someone to have gone through what Cynthia and I have been through. It comes at a very high price. We've lost our job. We have paid the price with our health. It impacts your family life. It impacts you financially negatively. So there are dire consequences for whistleblowers that are abused once they bring light to racial discrimination, fraud, and corruption.
Adila, now, how many years has it been since you had your whole ordeal?
It's been almost 5 years.
And how do you feel now? But I know during the experience, it must have taken, I think you had to dig deep, and I can't understand what type of, I'm trying to put a word to the resolve you had to have, and the courage to just persevere, that patience and perseverance and endurance. For me, I always am with ultra marathon athletes who do this. For me, this was also, I put it in that category, a time of great endurance, both emotionally, physically, mentally, in terms of your social interactions as well. But now looking back, would you have done it again?
Looking back, I would most certainly have done it because it exposed racial discrimination and it brought light to the plight of whistleblowers, especially taking someone like Mr. Lembati on, and taking Imperial, a huge listed entity, on. It actually brought, to the forefront that no one can. It's not okay. It's definitely not okay to abuse employees and to exploit them, and to when they bring light to fraud, corruption, or racial discrimination, that it's not right to cover it up at the cost of the whistleblower. So I do not regret my actions in terms of taking the matter all the way to the High Court. And I must say I was very fortunate that I had people that actually supported me. The late Jeff Molabella was very supportive in my case, and I was fortunate to have senior counsel Dalian Soko who supported my case as well. So unfortunately, not all whistleblowers would have had that privilege and advantage that I had.
Cynthia, advice now. I think with campaigns such as the Active Citizen Movement, I don't think it's any easier for a whistleblower, but I think there are better support structures now in place. What advice you have for somebody who's sitting now and they are now in this moral dilemma, ethical dilemma, in terms of, do I report my superiors? Do I report this fraud? What advice? Is it worth it?
I would encourage everyone to speak out. Reason being, because it's your own integrity and you're telling your truth. It will sit better with you. If you don't, years later, you will suffer with it. The structures aren't in place yet, so I know it will be difficult for most whistleblowers at this point. But what we are working together with the Active Citizens Movement is to build those structures. So I would recommend and advise anyone who is sitting right now willing to disclose anything to contact the Active Citizens Movement. They can get the details from your radio station, Mariam, and we will endeavor to help them. there's a group of lawyers that are willing to give their time. There's a group of psychologists at this point in time and social workers, and then there's people like myself and Adila and other whistleblowers who can just connect, because most times you just need to tell your story first, and then find that you're in a place of safety, because you can now open up what's been you're afraid to talk about, and then we can find a way to help. We don't have an office yet for the whistleblowers, which we are hoping to achieve, and we don't have the finance yet, but we're building the foundation, and if they can start, we would like us all in South Africa to start becoming ethical citizens. So that's what I would.
Cynthia and Adila, you have a platform. You might not have an office as yet, but you definitely have a platform here on Salam Media. So yes, you can say you've got media support behind you, because you have a powerful medium and a powerful support here at Salam Media. So if there's anything regarding new developments that has come to the fore, please, this is your platform, and you'll always have a home here in terms of getting the information out that you require. And once again, I salute you, and I stand in awe of you. You know what? You're such phenomenal, courageous people with such moral fiber and such moral convictions. And yes, may you be always under the mercy and protection of the Almighty. And yes, you truly an inspiration and true heroes and visionaries and legends of our time here in South Africa, and true defenders of our constitution. So you are right up there with the formidable women of the previous generation, the likes of Charlotte McLeod, Helen Suzman, and many strong, iconic women. So I salute you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the offer that you have made, that you would always be there to assist us in our fight going forward. We appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And yes, we're slightly out of we've come to the end and over. So I thank Nazreen for giving up a little of her lunchtime to just indulge us. But this was a really, I see Ziad saying I'm really now I'm going to be in the naughty corner. But this was an important discussion, and yes, it was important to create awareness around these issues. So thank you for indulging me and bearing with me, and and I really enjoyed today. And please, you can catch me again next Monday on Mid Morning Talk, only on Salam Media, your online humanitarian portal. Peace and blessings to all of you, and may you all be under the mercy and the protection of the Almighty.